Hey, what's up, guys? It's Michael from Family Gamer Review, and today we are going to play Pac-Man Championship Edition 2. I had to make it a little dramatic, but this is for the Light It Up Blue challenge, our 30-day Light It Up Blue challenge, and yesterday we played Pac-Man, well, Miss Pac-Man actually, and you gotta forgive me, my actual allergies are acting up right now. And what it was is that we were playing Miss Pac-Man to show why Miss Pac-Man was a great game. It was all about, patternizations and so forth. You could go back to our broadcast from yesterday or on our website where we had the Light It Up Blue challenge. And why I wanted to show this to you is because this game was a very big hit in our office, especially with, our gamers with autism and so forth. And at first we were wondering why. It was because of the fact that it's the patterns. Especially for, our younger gamers that have autism. They're big fans of Thomas the Train and so forth, and this game is very patternized, where back in 2006, let me kind of give a backstory to this. In 2006, Namco decided, okay, well, we're going to revise, Pac-Man. And they said, well, what can we do? They noticed that, especially in Japan in the arcades, there would be speed runs. And the speed runs itself, the speed runs itself, you just saw me die in here, and that I'll explain in a few moments, were, pro-am gamers that were playing the game to see how quickly can they beat the game, how quickly can they, finish a level and so forth. So they thought to themselves, hey, wait a minute, why don't we just bring out, a Pac-Man for the consoles, that Pac-Man for the consoles that is based on tournaments. So they designed the first game in mind of having 5 minutes and seeing who could score the most points. It became a very underground hit, especially here in the States and overseas, where players were just trying to see if they could outdo their scores. They were trying to see how well they could, finish a level without, dying or anything of that sort. It became a very big thing, and especially in the communities once it was released on the 360 and the PlayStation 3, this was an issue in which not Nintendo, Bandai started to notice, like, wait a minute, this is actually picking up speed, people are actually enjoying this, maybe we should, consider this becoming more full term. But while they were doing this, they also realized, wait a minute, we have something more here. But in the autistic community, after a year or so of being out, this became very popular because of the patternizations and because of running the levels and so forth. So when we started to test this out, a lot of our gamers with autism really enjoyed it. They picked it up, as always, and were able to play the game without any type of problems and so forth. And it was a very big hit. Now, the tutorials are mandatory when you start the game. Unfortunately, this is something that we were expecting, but, we figured that, showing the tutorials as we play along was something that would help the gamers understand, like all our fans out there understand, like, what Pac-Man's all about. And there it is. I mean, the game is very simplistic. If you played Pac-Man before, it's the same concept. You just run around the maze, gobbling up pellets, transitioning. But once we get into the actual gameplay, that's when there's a 5-minute timer. And once that 5-minute timer hits, then you'll understand, like, how the patterns and everything come into play. So as you see here, these are little minor objectives to teach you how to play. This is like a glorified tutorial, if anything. To show you how to use the bomb, how to reset yourself. As you notice, there's something very different about this game than other Pac-Mans in the series. You could bump the ghost monsters when you don't eat the power pellet. You can anger them, and when you anger them, they start chasing you. As you see right here, it is these little ghost monsters that are on the map that become the tail of the larger ghost monster. You're probably wondering, what does that mean? But you'll see in a moment. As you see the red ghost monster in there, as I pass through them here, they're adding to its tail. Now, this plays into a big factor because as this plays into the factor, this is something in which when you get the power pellet, this is where all your bonuses come in. It's all about bonuses in Pac-Man. So this is where... There you go. So this is where when the bonus comes in and you hit the first ghost monster, anything past its tail, so if there's like 15 or 20, will be added to your score. Now, I believe, if I remember the tutorial correctly, that it's going to show the ghost routes and show how eating power pellets and so forth. So, let's see here. The ghost monsters all have their routes. And you see how that route shows up? That gives you an idea of where the ghost monsters will be before they switch their routes. Now, this can change. Oh, excuse me. This can change, you know, throughout the game itself. You'll see when we get into the game. But this is also something that piqued the curiosity of my son and other gamers with autism, because everything is patternized. Everything has a purpose, a pattern, a purpose, and everything. So right here, it's going to show the tutorial about how we create the chain of ghost monsters as we grab the pellets on a, on the path. As you see here, I'm going through the path, and in a few moments, I am going to have my power pellet, and that is what I mean about the chain. As you see how your multiplayer connected, the multiple connected, that's all your points come in. Now, imagine doing all that within 5 minutes and trying to achieve a high score. Now, that's the fun of it. But as we played, one of the fun things that we noticed in the office was the fact that everybody wanted to challenge each other. They said, hey, let's challenge each other. Let's see who could get the best score, who could get the fastest time, who could get the most, power pellets, who could last the longest in the game, and so forth. So as you see here, as you have to catch all 4 ghost monsters, they have their trails. And because it kind of shows where their predetermined path is, it makes it easier for any player, from young and old, to pick up the game and play the game without any problems. As we're almost done with the tutorial here, I do apologize for my voice sounding so nasally. You gotta blame spring and global warming. And everything of that sort. I'm sorry, what was that, Camille? And blame New Jersey. Yes, thank you, Camille. We gotta blame New Jersey's weather. So, let's see here. We're gonna go down this path really quickly. And it shows how now the fruit will now start to go up and down different paths, so you have to kind of chase it. That is an added type of kind of challenge, because people were saying that, okay, why is the fruit stationary in the first one? Now, as it shows that it's moving, not only in order to advance, you have to chase it down and catch up with it. There we go. I think we're done with the tutorial, so I'm going to do a quick overview of... No, we're almost done with this. We're just going to show how to do bosses. Yes, Pac-Man has bosses. You're going to see in a moment. All the little ghost monsters become a big ghost monster. It's kind of like a Ghost Monsters Voltron right there. Yes, I said that. And as you see the predetermined paths right there, you see how in which Ghost Monster's angry. I got to stay away from it. And as we go along the path, stay away from Ghost Monster. Now it's angry again. And we gotta get to there. There we go. And once more on the predetermined path. Stay away from a Ghost Monster. And here we go. Here's the climactic scene where Pac-Man attacks the ghost monster. And he becomes a Pac Legion, eating up all the ghost monsters. Now that's for the story mode and the challenges. Now you won't experience this in the regular gameplay mode. So it's something that you don't have to worry about saying, okay, I have to, go through this and, do all that. But now, here comes the fun part. Now, I am rusty in this. I have not played this in a long time. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to turn this over to Camille She just went to get something to drink. During a live broadcast, Camille, you're getting something to drink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to her, which is our behavioral, specialist here in the office, and she'll talk more about Pac-Man CE too.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Twitch tonight, and thank you for joining us. Mike, you definitely gave me far too much credit. I am by no means a behavioral specialist. More like someone with a psychology background who does her best, but we're very excited about putting the Pac-Man series on our 30-day Light It Up Blue challenge for a few reasons. The Pac-Man series as a whole was really a pivotal breakthrough in the video game industry and community when it came to special needs gaming. When the original Pac-Man came out, I think Mike said it was only within the first year, the special needs community caught on and said, hey, our kids love this game and they excel at it. And they're, as he mentioned, when our special needs kids pick up Pac-Man, they just blow away our scores. They really do. And we're so proud of them. But it's really cool that a year after the original Pac-Man, the community really started to pay attention and said, hey, this makes my kid happy, and it's something at which he or she excels. Now, naturally, all products, I don't care what industry, whether it's a video game or a mop, everything has its product life cycle. Pac-Man already broke the mold. Look at that chain right there of ghost monsters. That's a beautiful thing. Everything has its life cycle, and Pac-Man in and of itself went way beyond the average life cycle of anything that gets released to consumers, because for years there were tournaments and events and all sorts of things all centered around Pac-Man. And as Mike explained last night, the reason that Ms. Pac-Man was such a pioneer was because it was the first time that instead of just ramping up the speed and difficulty of the same level over and over, Ms. Pac-Man was the first to introduce different levels, different patterns. And this was huge for the special needs community, especially those on the spectrum who are really exceptional at patternization. Well, that went over really well, but then when did Championship Edition come out, Mike? 2006. So you're really not looking at that old game here. This is not the Pac-Man of, what was the original release here? 82? Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. So this is over 30 years and going strong for the Pac-Man series, and that right there should tell you something huge. But you're probably looking at this Pac-Man edition on the screen right now and saying, what the heck is this? This doesn't look anything like the Pac-Man I remember from the arcade and the pizzeria down the street back when I was a kid, and it is very much so different. Now, what was interesting was that when Championship Edition came out, it most definitely caught the attention of the special needs community, but it got a little spicy. There was some debate. You'll notice in Championship Edition, it's all still very much pattern based. It's all about patternization. However, there are more variables. There are different strategies you can use. You have different tools like bumping the ghost monsters, using the bomb, the moving fruit, and some of the special needs parents came forward and said, hey, it was perfect the first time. Why did you ruin a good thing? You know, it was perfect. You should have just left it alone. Well, people weren't playing it much anymore. I mean, it had a longer lifespan than almost any video game we can think of. And so they added these other things. And we think they're great because, as you just saw, Mike had just set a new high record. Well, in the office at least, yes. Mike won't tell you this, but he is secretly a championship edition aficionado. He loves Pac-Man CE. But what we found, you know, to tell you our position on that side of the debate, we think that Bandai only made it better, really, because it's still very much pattern-based, and all of the extra perks from bumping the ghost monsters, from the way that they form chains, to the way that you can use a bomb, everything is still pattern-based. And so that not only, you know, leverages the strengths of a special needs child who is inclined to be good at pattern-based games, but if you see, just like right now, eating that long chain of ghost monsters is really rewarding at each level, as opposed to just only being faced or killed by one at a time. And this moves to different levels all the time, and you have to get used to new patterns. And so many times we find that for our special needs game testers, they absolutely love it. They find it a lot more engaging than the original Pac-Man. And one thing that I love about it is that when you ask someone, do you want to play Pac-Man? And they sort of look at you like, wow, that's such an old game. Why would you play that? Well, Championship Edition is a whole different ballgame. It has the original essence of Pac-Man in terms of the maze and the pellets and the ghost monsters, but the way that they're activated in Championship Edition when you go by them, the way that you have to avoid that chain. One thing that's interesting too is you'll notice that as the tail of the ghost monster gets longer and longer, it becomes a lot easier to bump into, or I should say more difficult to not bump into. See, that chain's getting pretty long. So you have to bump it in order to not cross the chain, but when you bump it, then you quote-unquote anger the ghost monster, and he gets really big and fast and chases you down. So there are a lot more variables, but they are all still pattern-based. And in our opinion, and in our experience with everyone that we test with, from children to adults, special needs, non-special needs, we have yet to find a single tester, from new gamer to experienced gamer, who has not been able to just very easily pick up and play Pac-Man Championship Edition and have a fabulous time with it. And so this is definitely one of those titles that, you know, in my opinion, there should be a certain basic game kit that has certain must-have titles. Meaning, if you're a gamer, that is a title that you just must have. And the Pac-Man series is definitely in there. You have to have at least one version of Pac-Man in your digital library in order for it to be complete. And for us, we featured Ms. Pac-Man last night to honor the old adage of ladies first, but I guess we're saving the best for last by bringing out Championship Edition tonight, because it's, in our opinion, the most fun for the whole family. For our 30-day Lighted Up Blue Challenge, it is definitely the most fun for our special needs game testers. It's just all around, they did a fabulous job at breathing new life into a very treasured and cherished classic. And so, we love it. We think it more than deserves its place on our list for the 30-day Lighted Up Blue Challenge for autism awareness. And this is not just a game that you'll love in April, it's a game that you'll love all year round. Mike's starting his spiel now about whether or not he breaks 4 million. Here we go. 3,000. Yeah. Not even 2,500. You were short by 2,500. Yeah, close but no. That's so true. So yeah, that's Pac-Man Championship Edition. Another thing that I really like about Championship Edition that you're seeing right now, and it sounds like such a I feel like I'm being Captain Obvious by saying this, but it uses more gamification. And if you're wondering what gamification is, it's something that they do in marketing. Oh gosh, that's Michael's other account right there. See that? That's his other gamer tag. That tells you how much he loves Championship Edition. But anyway, so gamification is where people in the marketing industry started to realize that, hey, if we take the basic principles of gaming and apply them to other types of shopping and consumer behavior, people are going to get a lot more engaged and sucked in, so to speak. And it worked. Rewarding people for reaching certain levels, unlocking new abilities, the list goes on. Well, if you notice, that's happening a lot more here in Championship Edition compared to the classic Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man. The way that it unlocks new levels, the way that it shows you a chart of your high score, the way that it celebrates you for setting a new high record. There are just a lot of aspects about the game that reward you and for improving. And we think that's great, especially in a time when, sometimes it seems that everyone gets a trophy no matter if they've even put in any effort or not. Pac-Man Championship Edition is an example of something that truly and genuinely rewards you for being successful. And again, our special needs gamers loved it. We didn't even have a choice. There was no way this was not going to be on the 30-day Lighted Up Blue Challenge list for autism awareness. And so, Mike, am I missing anything?
I believe there
That's true. If you've been noticing the way that Mike is jumping sort of from track to track there, those are little portals that can help you get around and try to keep away from that long tail. see how long that tail is of ghost monsters? And sometimes in order to avoid the tail, you have to jump through one of those portals. And it's just so cool the way that it sort of lifts you and then plops you down onto a new map, a new maze. It's just really engaging, especially for kids. For adults, if you have a competitive personality, this is the game for you, guaranteed. You'll never get bored of this game. It always feels new. It never feels tedious or old or boring, especially when you gotta follow the ghost. You have to chase down the ghost monsters in order to eat the chain when you've eaten the power pellet. And here's another interesting fact is, special needs or not, there are people who actually study the strategies behind Pac-Man. And I don't think they'd be able to do that if it weren't pattern-based. And there are a lot of people who dedicate a lot of time and energy to discussing and having online forums about the best ways. Is it better to go for the higher score? Is it better to go for a faster progression through the various levels? But, you know, to each his own. But we just think it's a fabulous game, and that's why you're watching us Twitch it tonight. Yeah, you're rusty, but notice you're sort of getting your old groove back. As we've mentioned before, we don't wait, so the longer you take on
Like
the
the longer the ghost monster is running around, and you catch it right away, it goes down.
ah
But fine, that's
oh, that was close.
I didn't break.
So I love the fact that it has a great positive, reward system, positive reinforcement built into the game's design. It celebrates you for getting new high scores, and you're able to unlock all of these different maps that you're seeing, or mazes. And so it's also a great, from a mom aspect, I always look at the value of a title. You know, no one wants to go out and pay $59.99 only to have their kid play a game for an hour or two and then get bored of it. And Championship Edition, no. You're going to get your money's worth for a long, long time. In fact, Mike, would you agree that this is a great game for, say, long car rides?
I know it's available on the tablet and on Apple Store. I'm not sure about Google Play yet, but last I checked, just a while ago, it was available for, for tablet and mobile, but you have to check yourself the local spec.
Yes, so see if the app is downloadable on whatever type of device that you have, whether it's iOS, Apple, Android based.
The Windows phone, I believe, does have it.
Okay, Mike's saying he believes that the Windows phones do have this. or at least can download it, because this is something that will keep a kid just content as, oh, what's that saying? Cozy as a dormouse or something. I don't know. I don't remember the expression, but this is one of those games that can turn an 8-hour ride from an 8-hour ride of frustration into 8 hours of quiet fun or relaxation. Because look at how engaging this is. Look at how much action is going on the screen. And it's still Pac-Man. But there's so much happening and there's so much strategy behind it. And, we know that this one's a winner. Every single one of our special needs game testers has absolutely loved this game. And we know that there's some debate. There are some people in 2006 who felt, hey, why did you ramp this up and add all these new features? It was perfect before. Well, we believe there's always room for improvement, and also it's a new time. We may not have all of the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, but we certainly understand more now than we did back then, in the 80s when the Pac-Man series was born. And so I think that from a special needs aspect, it's fabulous that it relies even more, it leverages more of the strengths of people or kids who are on the spectrum. So, yeah, that's our spiel about Pac-Man Championship Edition. As you can tell, we feel pretty strongly about it. We think that, as Kanye West would say, they changed the game. They really did change the game with Championship Edition. They kept it the same, but they greatly improved it at the same time. And we think it's just awesome, truly awesome. A digital title that you have to have in your digital library, especially if you are a gaming family. And remember that a family that games together stays together. That is so true. So, thank you for joining us. Thank you for twitching with us. And be sure to tune in tomorrow night. Mike, what do we have on bat tomorrow night? Pinball FX. Oh, that's going to be a good one. We've seen a lot of pinball games, but not very many that are so authentic feeling that you feel like you're back at the pizzeria in the 80s wearing your fringed top and your jelly bracelets. I mean, it really, really takes you back. So definitely join us tomorrow night as we show you the one pinball table that will spark your nostalgia. Or I should say the one game of pinball tables that will spark your nostalgia, because they really just got it that perfectly. So have a good night, everybody, and game safely.